morning, people. Happy Monday after a long, well, not long, but just a weekend that seemed long to me because I never stopped working over the weekend between yard work, planting, and getting that damn hole in the ground open, known as the pool that came with the house. Didn't choose to have a pool, but it came with the house. So we have to keep it functioning. Actually, it was a good weekend opening because it was in the 90s in Minnesota. So, hey, we do get hot weather here. Anyway, welcome back after a weekend of fun and sun and remembrance. And I want to start the show with words of a president who I'm not necessarily a fan of, but the man did do a couple things right. And so these are just some words regarding yesterday, because yesterday is weird because it didn't seem like a whole lot of time was spent talking about D-Day. And usually it's a big thing in the papers, the remembrance of D-Day and stuff like that. But for whatever reason, it wasn't yesterday. So I want to start just by playing this, and then we'll play the intro, and then we'll get into the news. There's a whole lot of news from the weekend, all kinds of stuff. I'm going to touch on a lot of things, very short order, and keep it swiftly going because I got tons of tabs open today. So there you go. So anyway, this is the D-Day prayer from Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and I think it's just a good thing to hear in remembrance of those who sacrificed on that day. That basically, not that necessarily it turned the war. It was, there was already hints that the Germans were strained, but this particular push and brilliant tactical effort by the Allies on the Western Front made, basically it was when you say the walls are closing in, this ain't the Trump walls closing in. This is actually the walls are closing in on the guy with the funny mustache. So here's the D-Day prayer from Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States.
My fellow Americans, last night when I spoke with you about the fall of Rome, I knew at that moment that troops of the United States and our allies were crossing the Channel in another and greater operation. It has come to pass with success thus far. And so, in this poignant hour, I ask you to join with me in prayer. Almighty God, our sons, pride of our nation, this day have set upon a mighty endeavor, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, and our civilization, and to set free a suffering humanity. Lead them straight and true. Give strength to their arms, stoutness to their hearts, steadfastness in their faith. They will need thy blessings. Their road will be long and hard. For the enemy is strong. He may hurl back our forces. Success may not come with rushing speed, but we shall return again and again. And we know that by thy grace and by the righteousness of our cause, our sons will triumph. They will be sore tried by night and by day, without rest, until the victory is won. The darkness will be rent by noise and flame. Men's souls will be shaken with the violences of war. For these men are lately drawn from the ways of peace. They fight not for the lust of conquest. They fight to end conquest. They fight to liberate. They fight to let justice arise and tolerance and goodwill among all thy people. They yearn but for the end of battle, for their return to the haven of home. Some will never return. Embrace these, Father, and receive them, thy heroic servants, into thy kingdom. And for us at home, fathers, mothers, children, wives, sisters, and brothers of brave men overseas, whose thoughts and prayers are ever with them, help us, Almighty God, to rededicate ourselves in renewed faith in Thee in this hour of great sacrifice. Many people have urged that I call the nation into a single day of special prayer. But because the road is long and the desire is great, I ask that our people devote themselves in a continuance of prayer. As we rise to each new day, and again when each day is spent, let words of prayer be on our lips, invoking thy help to our efforts. Give us strength, too, strengthen our daily tasks, to redouble the contributions we make in the physical and the material support of our armed forces. And let our hearts be stout to wait out the long travail, to bear sorrows that may come, to impart our courage unto our sons, wheresoever they may be. And, O Lord, give us faith. Give us faith in Thee, faith in our sons, faith in each other, faith in our united crusade. Let not the keenness of our spirit ever be dulled. Let not the impacts of temporary events, of temporal matters of but fleeting moment, let not these deter us in our unconquerable purpose. With thy blessing, we shall prevail over the unholy forces of our enemy. Help us to conquer the apostles of greed and racial arrogances. Lead us to the saving of our country, and with our sister nations into a world unity that will spell a sure peace, a peace invulnerable to the schemings of unworthy men, and a peace that will let all men live in freedom, reaping the just rewards of their honest toil. Thy will be done, Almighty God. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming to you live from the Lucky Dog studio in a hidden location somewhere in the upper Midwest of the United States of America, it's a brother making his own way but with all the wrong opinions. Welcome to the Morning Night Live with your host, yours truly, Dawg Knight.
All right, stop the music. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Night Live. I'm your host, Marty, also known as Dawg Knight on the internet, and welcome back to the Dawg Knight Channel on this lovely June 7th, 2021. As Gun Fox says, D-Day +1. Interesting yesterday, there was not a whole lot of talk about D-Day. I saw a few articles here and there, and I in the links today that I'll put at the end of the show. There'll be a single link to all the articles that we cover today. There's going to be a couple bonus articles in that. One of them from the American Spectator, remembering D-Day, June 6, 1944. And then also one from the American Thinker about great generations. And so I encourage you to come in and go back and check out those articles in the link that I'll put in the description down below. Just quick housekeeping. Make sure if you like what we do today, hit the like button at some point during the show. Also, please share this stream out if you haven't already. Let people know that we're here. And if you want to sponsor the show, you can do that through Super Chats and Streamlabs links in the chat, in the description down below, in the chat box, etc. So thanks for all the people who've been sponsoring the show over the last year. I greatly appreciate all of you who are able to do that. Now that, well, I won't go into the lawsuit that we are, which we're not going to keep pursuing, unfortunately, even though we could appeal it to a regular district court. That's a whole other story. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about things going on in the world. I got to make this up so I can hear myself. But before we do that, I got to say good morning to everybody. First in the chat today was Advocatus Diaboli, the Devil's Advocate. And you get the bell. Thank you for being here. Also, good morning to Always Lost and Nothing Else, Zach Osborne, Jonathan Peterson, Mike Savage, Blarg, Infamous One, Somnambule Nation, Jen T, what's happening? Good morning to San, Hig 1966, and Cindy in the background, I'm sure. Also, good morning, Fox P2, T-Ball, Renee Mayette, Richo, for my friend from Down Under. Also, good morning, Maddie, Aaron Meredith. Let's see, K Shulls in the house, Select a Boy. Yeah, also, boy. Gunfox61, the ever faithful administrator of our Discord server for the Dawg Knight Channel. Also, good morning to Mike Kitten, everybody. Wow, everyone's like got all in one place this time. That's nice. I think that's everybody. Oh, Manic Pete. No, Mank Pete. How you doing? And let's see, has anyone else showed up? I think I got about everybody there. So there we go. So that's everyone that's in the chat. If you're watching, if you're driving, if you're at work, if you're thriving, just be sure to keep your eyes on the road or on that press that you might be listening to with the headphones, because you want to be careful and don't hurt yourself at work or driving. Thank you for watching the show, everyone who's lurking and all that stuff. So good morning to all of you. All right, let's get into it, because I got a whole bunch of stuff I want to get to today. I should probably tweet out the show too. There we go. Just did that, and I turned off the it is not open mic day today, so just FYI. Thank you real quick too to let's see, Maddie, thank you for putting out the show on Twitter. Also, Somnambule Nation, and oh my goodness, quite a chat going on in my mentions here about universities and college education, which interesting. Bill Maher had an interesting monologue about that this weekend, but I don't know if I'm going to get to it. Hey, a Chicago Mike also. Manic could also apply at times. Well, there you go. Okay, so you're a happy person. That's fantastic. All right, let's get into a little bit about D-Day, because the D-Day prayer that I just played will be in the links today under a CNS News article right here. FDR's D-Day prayer, a struggle to preserve our republic, our religion, our civilization. And the text of that prayer is there. It's interesting. Probably not a prayer you would hear from a leader today. Remember when we, back in the day when people made overtly religious messages in American public life, and it's just a little bit less of that now. Unless it's religions other than Christianity, but not that you need to have them. It's not part of, it's part of our heritage that we have a free religious nation. You have freedom to worship or not worship as you choose, and that's a good thing. And it's one of those things that makes the United States unique. Compared to many other nations. So it's just one of those things that we should preserve. So Roosevelt's speech will be in the link in the description down below of all the tabs all the articles that we're doing. It'll be a single one-tab link. Also, just a reminder, here's, and this was from yesterday from the Ace of Spades Spades long. On this date, 77 years ago, the largest naval invasion, on yesterday's date, 77 years ago, the largest naval invasion in history began on the English coast. By the end of the day, 130,000 Allied soldiers had landed on the beaches of Normandy, and not just Normandy, but along the western coast of Europe mainland, and began the invasion of France and the liberation of Europe and ultimately the world. Now, this person said, "I have seen those beaches and I was awestruck that men could climb some of those cliffs, much less fight their way to the top against a determined and experienced German army. They were men, they were heroes, they were giants, and they changed the course of history. We owe them the easy and comfortable and wonderful lives we live. They fought for us, and many of them never came home. They remain where they fell in Normandy and throughout Europe, but they are not forgotten." And that's about as poignant and short and sweet as that needs to be, and it's a perfect memorial to them. Now, interesting, yesterday, only one D-Day survivor took part in the annual commemorations this year. It was 77 years ago, June 6, 1944, that 250,000 Allied troops stormed the beaches of Normandy and began the long and bloody campaign to take Europe back from the Nazis. It was a remarkable feat of logistics then and now. More than 556,000 tons of supplies were ferried across the English Channel in the first 27 days after the landing, supplying 1 million men who eventually took part in the initial stages of the Normandy campaign. But there on the beaches of Normandy, just after dawn on June 6th, the war was decided. While some of the British and Canadian troops were able to land and begin to move inland by mid-morning, the Americans on Omaha Beach were getting mowed down by German machine guns at a frightening rate. Pinned against the seawall, the few Americans who managed to survive uninjured were getting picked off by German snipers or blown up by German mortars. There were no orders, no directions from command, just individual men whose nation had prepared them to improvise. So that's what they did. Small groups began to assault the German pillboxes that continued to pour murderous fire to the beaches. Others followed their example. Slowly, painfully, the troops on Omaha Beach began to clear German resistance. That they eventually succeeded was no cause for celebration. They knew there would be another battle and another and many more before they could go home. Veterans of that fight don't like to talk about it much. They never accepted the hero label that everyone wants to hang on them. They prefer to say that those who didn't come home are the real heroes. The memorials have been cut short this year. In Normandy itself, there was only a small memorial service. The pandemic is still raging in France, and authorities reluctantly have refused to allow visitors. Before taking part in the French remembrances, but taking part in one of the French remembrances was 96-year-old American Charles Shea. Shea lives in Normandy and became the only living participant at the D-Day cemetery service in Carentan. Under the bright sun, the 96-year-old Penobscot Native American from Indian Island, Maine, stood steadily while the hymns of the Allied countries were played Friday in front of the monument commemorating the assault in Carentan that allowed the Allies to establish a continuous front joining nearby Utah Beach and Omaha Beach. Shea regretted that the pandemic is interrupting everything. He's expected to be the only veteran at Sunday's Anniversary Day ceremony at the Normandy American Cemetery at Colville-sur-Mer. It's established that only about 2,500 survivors of the D-Day assault are still alive. Will anyone remember them and what they did after they're gone? In France, people who remember these men, they kept them close to their hearts, Shea said, and they remember what they did for them. I don't think the French people will ever forget. It's hard to forget that the word courage came alive that day. Up and down the coast of Normandy, young men performed incredible acts of courage. Sometimes these were the last acts of their lives. Sometimes they acted to save a friend, but those acts of courage said something strong and good about those young Americans. Today, courage is defined differently, as I wrote 15 D-Days ago. Too often we use that word in a base and cavalier way. A Hollywood movie star has courage because she revealed to the world that she's a drug addict. A comic has courage because he made fun of the President of the United States to his face. A filmmaker has courage because he made millions of dollars shooting a documentary which shows the U.S. government complicit in the mass murder on 9/11. And so instead of courage being the word with inexpressible significance and meaning beyond its simple definition, it has become a self-congratulatory epithet, a hollowed-out expression of empty promise and insincerity. Today, the purveyors of myths and shapers of opinion use the word to tell the rest of us who to admire and what to respect. No longer does courage imply sacrifice or willing to give all that one has for a cause greater than oneself. Instead, courage defines the selfish desires and overwrought egos of an ideology that sees more irony in the word than reverence. The men of Omaha Beach brought the word courage to life. Although most of them are gone, their examples should inspire us to reach outside of ourselves and stand for something greater than the ordinary. They may have been ordinary men, but they performed extraordinary feats and should always be remembered for that. So that's a great article, PJ Media by Rick Moran, and I greatly appreciate it. Now, fascinatingly enough, here we go. This is oddly fascinating. So yesterday, D-Day. Normally, you would expect that certain entities would recognize D-Day. But one who seemed to forget was none other than President Joe Biden. Joe Biden neglects D-Day, instead tweets about the Tulsa Race Massacre. President Joe Biden tweeted a video Sunday of his meeting last week with survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, but did not mention that June 6 was also the anniversary of D-Day, the U.S.-led invasion of Normandy in the Second World War. Oh, perfect. Biden, who appeared to confuse D-Day with Pearl Harbor Day last year on the campaign trail, tweeted, "I met with survivors of the Tulsa Massacre this week to help fill the silence, because in silence wounds deepen, and as painful as it is, only in remembrance do wounds heal." He shared a video produced by the White House in which he emphasized the need to tell the truth about America's past sins. "You can't pretend it didn't happen. It can happen again," he said. Really? Really? Do you really believe that, Joe? And who pretends it didn't happen? I've been hearing about it since I was in high school. But, so not everybody has, I guess. But I'm trying to figure out who he thinks is being silent about it. Anyway, none of Biden's Twitter accounts, Joe Biden, POTUS, White House, had commemorated D-Day by 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. A search of the White House website also showed no statements, not a single statement about D-Day. You would think that's a pretty important day in history. Curiously, though, Vice President Kamala Harris issued a tweet on Sunday commemorating the anniversary of D-Day. On the 77th anniversary of D-Day, we honor the heroes who stormed the beaches of Normandy and liberated the continent. We will never forget their courage and sacrifice. So good for her, seeing as, she's prone to talk about long weekends. Biden's own accounts in the White House did not retweet that message, though they retweet each other occasionally. Then candidate Biden remembered the day during a presidential campaign last year, but appeared not to do so in 2021. So there's this tweet from last year. Biden mentioned Normandy, the site of D-Day operations, twice in a speech to Arlington National Cemetery on Memorial Day, but did not specifically note D-Day, nor appear to mention it at any point Sunday, the day's anniversary. So, and then they just have some tweets when Trump did, and so on and so forth. Just really, that is just so odd to me that the president of the United States would not have mentioned D-Day yesterday at all. Weird. Anyway, real quick, first sponsor of the day, Gunfox 61.
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day.
Thank you, sir. Just short of a 5 at the $4.99. Marty, Pennsylvania today started the 2020 election audit. Full independent, I think that says, Washington Compost link in your Discord. Oh, okay. Well, thank you, sir. By the way, please join the Discord server, and there's always a bunch of news in there, especially we have a news tab that's just brimming with things. And thank you so much, GunFox61, for being a sponsor of the show and a full-time supporter of the show. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I try to tell you every day. So let's get into some news. Just some hot news from the weekend. Joe Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, has reaffirmed his position to Democratic his opposition to the Democrat election takeover legislation and any changes to filibuster. This is a Breitbart article, so it's going to be written that way. Here, let's put this in the screen. So Joe Manchin announced Sunday he will vote against the For the People Act to federalize local elections. Good, because it's unconstitutional anyway. I'm going to bet you. Also, he says, I believe partisan voting legislation would destroy the weakening bonds. I think he meant bonds of our democracy. And for that reason, I will vote against the For the People Act. Furthermore, I will not vote to weaken or eliminate the filibuster, he wrote in the Charleston Gazette-Mail. Good, because we don't want the tyranny of the majority, because if you want a pure democracy, well, who was it that said that democracy is like two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner? Well, there you go. So anyway, why is my dog down here? How'd you get down here? Hello, Lucky. Oh, there you are. Go. There you go. Get out of here. All right. So anyway, good. That was some big news. And boy, are people mad at Joe Manchin. Ooh, the Democrats are just PO'd at Joe Manchin. Anyway, let's keep going. Interesting. Other news, World War II news. David Dushman, last Soviet soldier who liberated Auschwitz, has passed at age 98. I'll do that. I'll thank you again, Gunfox. I'll get to that one in a second. Doe Dushman, last of the Soviet soldiers who liberated Auschwitz, is dead at 98. Doe Dushman, the last surviving Soviet soldier who helped liberate Auschwitz in World War II, died on Saturday. He was 98. The former soldier died at a Munich hospital, according to the Jewish community of Munich and Upper Bavaria. The Red Army soldier was right on the front lines when the National Socialist machinery of murder were destroyed, said Charles Knobloch, former head of Germany's Central Council of Jews. Every witness to history who passes on is at a loss, but saying farewell to David Dushman is particularly painful, said Knobloch. Over 1 million people, mainly Jews, were killed by the Nazis at Auschwitz-Birkenau between 1940 and 1945. Dushman, riding his T-34 tank on January 27, 1945, flattened the electric fence surrounding the Nazi death camp. They stumbled out of the barracks. They sat and lay among the dead. Terrible. We threw them all our canned food and immediately drove on to hunt fascists, Dushman recounted in a 2015 interview with Munich newspapers Süddeutsche Zeitung. Anyway, so rest in peace, David Dushman, and just again, many heroes of World War II, and they were from all over the world, and fortunately the Soviets got on board when the Germans made the mistake of reneging on their agreement and attacking to the east, and so that was probably one of the dumbest tactical moves they made. So FTG to the Germans of the day, not the current Germans, although, well, never mind. I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, thank you, GunFox61, sponsoring the show once again with another $4.99. It says, F you, pedo Joe. Stop sniffing all that spray in the little girl's hair you sniff. I hope all those people that voted for the pedo and the commie slut who got where she is by getting on her back, both are brainless commie bastards. That is quite the spicy comment there. And thank you, Gunbox61, for ripping it up in the super chats. I greatly appreciate your continued support. Let's see. I got a few more people to say hello to, looks like. Good morning, King on Common Law. Good morning, Sarah, my friend. How you doing? Lady Boomer wants to meet you. We're going to figure that out someday. Also, San, good morning. Also, who else just showed up? I just saw another name that wasn't here earlier. Special K on Acid, what's happening? Also, I think, is that everybody? T-Ball, I was already here. All right, we're getting close. I'm figuring it out. If you're here, just say hi, and I'll make sure I try to get to you. 31 people in the room right now. 20 likes. Hit the like button if you like what's going on. Wasn't Johnny the first? First what? Oh no, Johnny Hellcat was the first. Sarah, I think Johnny. Oh, Sarah was the first wrench though. Yeah, you were the first wrench. Sarah was the first wrench. Johnny Hellcat was the first viewer of the show. All right, let's keep going here because I got a lot to get to. Let's see, we did that already. Where are we at? Oh, other big news that you're probably going to start hearing about, and this is just I'm just going to give you the kind of the synopsis here. Good morning, Mad Max, by the way. There's a report out that a high-ranking Chinese defector working with the DIA, which is the Defense Intelligence Agency, has direct knowledge of China's bioweapons program, and it's not a good thing. Dang it, it's not a good thing. So, in an exclusive story at Red State, Jen Van Laar reports that sources inside the intelligence community. What the hell is that on my Astroglide? Why is there an ad for Astroglide on my PJ Media thing? Anyway, God, that's distracting. All right. Sources inside the intelligence community say a high-ranking defector from China has been working for months with the United States Defense Intelligence Agency. According to Van Laar's confidential sources, that a high-ranking defector claims to have knowledge of the special weapons program in China that includes bioweapons. Not good. Adam Housley first reported via Twitter on Thursday that the increased pressure on China in recent days is due to a defector with intimate knowledge of the program. According to Housley, FBI Director Christopher Wray didn't know right away because they wanted to make sure they got all they needed before telling him. In fact, Wray was ambushed with the information, according to Van Laar's sources, as was the CIA. Sources at the DIA leadership kept the defector within their clandestine services network to prevent Langley and the State Department from accessing the person whose existence was kept from other agencies because DIA leadership believes there are Chinese spies or sources inside the FBI, CIA, and several other federal agencies. Ugh! Good Lord. Why was the defector so important that he had to be kept under wraps? Housley says it's because the defector has information on the origins of the Wuhan virus. China is trying to produce variants that suggest it came from bats to cover up that coronavirus originally came from a lab. He later clarified, U.S. intelligence has a Chinese defector with Wuhan info, and China is trying to produce variants that suggest it came from bats to cover up that coronavirus originally came from the lab, which is what I just said. According to Red State sources, the defector has been with the DIA for 3 months and has provided an extensive, technically detailed debrief to U.S. officials. So, that's not good news, is it? Is it? I'm just saying. Wait, as the Astroglide is for when China fucks you up the ass.
China is asshole.
Oh, good Lord. Who? Okay, enough of that. All right, we're going to keep going because I got a lot to get to. So we're going to talk a little bit about the insurrection, as opposed to the kind of thing you need an Astroglide for. So there's an interesting article in Human Events today, or from yesterday. Or is it yesterday? What day was it? I don't know. I just saw it this morning. The Biden administration is abusing state power to create the appearance of a conspiracy to commit an insurrection on January 6, 2021 at the U.S. Capitol. The problem is the indictment they just filed with the Circuit Court of the District of Columbia proves there is no conspiracy. Now, if you want to just read the entire indictment, it's in this article. You can certainly pull that out, and I'm probably going to take a look at it later today to read the whole thing, but this article summarizes it pretty well. Let's put this in the full screen so you can see the whole thing. The malfeasance of the FBI, the Department of Justice, and the judges involved with the arrest and incarceration without bail of many of those who participated in the riot at the Capitol have been covered brilliantly in a series of pieces by Julie Kelly. These events are abhorrent to anyone who believes in the rule of law and better suited to a totalitarian police state removing political enemies. America is not supposed to have an indefinite detention based on political beliefs, and yet here we are. The treatment is all the more heinous when compared to the near total lack of interest in prosecuting the year-plus-long violence and destruction perpetrated by BLM and Antifa, some of which involved the seizure and continued occupation for weeks of government buildings. This is a far step from the equal treatment under the law and should bring a concerted response from all those on the right who oppose tyranny. Many of the acts described in the indictment are constitutionally protected, but it seems that fades away when the left doesn't like the reason they're being exercised. They attach the term big lie, a Nazi reference, to any disputes over the 2020 election. Now they act empowered to treat any related activities as outside the law by that fictional connection. So the government has a, let's see. I'm going to skip this real quick because this is about the rally, but I want to talk a little bit about the conspiracy. So there are 13 separate, about this government indictment. This just gives you kind of a background of what the 3-hour riot, so to speak, which I'm sure you've heard plenty of that. And there's also, they have a bunch of people from the Oath Keepers. We talked about how the Oath Keepers in particular are being targeted by the Department of Justice and the FBI for that matter. So here it is. There are 13 charges in the government's indictment. The cri de coeur from the Democrats and their media propaganda team has been that this was an insurrection, per the indictment, to corruptly obstruct, influence, and impede an official proceeding. In my recent book, Winning the Second Civil War Without Firing a Shot, I examine the definitions and actions that constitute insurrection, sedition, and domestic terrorism, and how they apply to the actions of BLM, Antifa, and those involved in the Capitol riot. Here are the legal definitions. So let's see. U.S. Code 18 U.S. Code 2383 defines someone guilty of the crime of insurrection or rebellion as whoever incites, sets on foot, assists, or engages in any rebellion or insurrection against the authority of the United States or the law thereof. Sedition is defined if two or more persons in a state or territory or in any place subject to the jurisdiction of the United States conspire to overthrow, put down, or destroy by force the government of the United States, or to levy war against them, or to oppose by force the authority thereof, or by force prevent, hinder, or delay the execution of any law of the United States, or by force to seize, take, or possess any property of the United States contrary to the authority thereof. And then per the FBI, domestic terrorism is violent criminal acts committed by individuals or groups to further ideological goals stemming from domestic influences such as those of political, religious, social, racial, or environmental nature. Now, the government must prove that the individuals charged in the indictment planned and intended to conduct one or more of these acts. All of the evidence referenced in the indictment, however, shows that contrary to planning an attack on the Capitol, these individuals made certain to avoid breaking laws. In fact, the only conflict they contemplated was defensive in nature, as we're defensive in nature if Antifa attacked the rally. Of the 13 charges, the main one related to talk of an insurrection is charge 1, conspiracy. Introductory allegations set forth in paragraphs 1 through 3. Well, here, let's see. The indictment claims the purpose of the conspiracy was to stop, delay, or hinder the certification of the Electoral College vote. Yet it offers no evidence that this was the purpose of the Oath Keepers, and actually presents evidence that shows their purpose was to join in the rally and be prepared if any violence was begun by others. Antifa. The Stop the Steal rally on January 6th was a protest against the certification of the 2020 election. It was designed to influence lawmakers to vote against certifying the results of the Electoral College until investigations of abnormalities in the voting had been conducted. This vote takes place every election and is a normal function of government. It has resulted in Democratic lawmakers voting against certifying the results previously on multiple occasions. Democrats launched small-scale and short-lived objections to the Electoral College vote counts in 2001, 2005, and 2017. Writes the Voice of America's Patty Wadakasura. That's as close as I'm going to get to that name. Hello, Sheograph, by the way. Good morning, Bosch Tube. And I think I'm caught up. There was nothing unlawful about planning and conducting a rally to attempt to influence lawmakers to vote against certification. It is the very definition of petitioning the government for redress of grievances. So it is incumbent on the government to prove the Oath Keepers intended to do this using unlawful means and conspired for that purpose. The indictment cites the manner and means by which the conspiracy is alleged to have been planned, but nothing shows the purpose which the indictment claims. It presents numerous examples of captured communications from these individuals that one would assume support this assertion, but they don't. Not a single piece of evidence from prior to January 6th shows any intention to conduct any type of assault on the Capitol or the proceedings inside. And then they show a section of this. Caldwell, Crowell, Goat, Watkins, Sandra Parker, Benny Parker, Young, Steele, Kelly, Meggs, Connie Meggs, Harrelson, Minuta, James, Hackett, Dolan, and Isaacs, with others known and unknown, carried out the conspiracy through the following manners and means, among others, by 1, agreeing to participate in planning an operation to interfere with the certification of the Electoral College vote on January 6, 2021, attending or scheduling trainings to teach and learn paramilitary combat tactics in advance of the January 6th operation, using websites, social media, text messaging, and messages applications to recruit other individuals to travel to Washington, D.C. to support the January 6th operation, coordinating events with others, including members of Oath Keepers from other regions, and joining forces with these individuals and groups to further the January 6th operation, traveling to Washington, D.C. for January 6th operation. Now that's interesting because it would seem if you were actually going to actually have an insurrection and you had training on how to do that and stuff, there might be more than just defensive measures put together. Anyway. One of the claims is that there was technical training conducted with which, if the purpose was to practice and prepare for a seizure of the Capitol, would be direct proof of this alleged conspiracy to stop, delay, or hinder the certification of the Electoral College vote. However, instead of being aimed at stopping the certification, the training was specifically for the likely possibility that Antifa would attack the rally as they had on numerous other occasions. Captured communications from the Oath Keepers show that they were planning for the possibility of a confrontation with Antifa, not to somehow storm the Capitol and disrupt the Electoral College certification. The Oath Keepers leaders mentioned an alliance with a group called the Proud Boys for this purpose. The Proud Boys always have a big group and could act as a force multiplier, he added, according to the memo from the prosecutors. The discussion centered not on invading the Capitol, but on attacking left-wing Antifa supporters. So that's just from the rally. This goes on and on about just different things that are in the indictment that basically disprove what they're trying to prosecute people for. And that's why, and you can read the rest of it yourself, but that's why that right now most of the main charges from all of these people are 1, trespassing, 2, disorderly conduct. And they'll have some assault charges of if they can figure out people who are fighting with officers. But it's a fascinating article showing how that even in the indictment itself, it doesn't support what they're charging people with. So it's kind of weird. Anyway, moving on, we got, and then this is kind of the Trump derangement section of the show today. Lethal wages of Trump derangement madness. In their uncontrolled aversion and detestation, Trump haters suspend all rules of empiricism, logic, and rationality, and people died as a result. Think about it. For 5 years, anything candidate president-elect and President Trump said or did, the media, the left, and progressive popular culture, that's the most redundant sentence ever, opposed in a Pavlovian fashion. Anything that Trump touched was ridiculed or discredited, regardless of the evidence, data, or cogency. The merit of a Trump policy, a Trump assessment, a Trump initiative were irrelevant, given the primordial hatred of the left of all things Trump, the president, the person, and the family. Under the reductionist malady of Trump derangement syndrome, facts and logic did not matter. Instead, anything not said or done in the opposition to Trump empowered the supposed existential Trump threat. Ironically, some of the most deductive and reductionist Trump haters were supposedly professionals, the highly educated, and the self-proclaimed devotees of the Enlightenment. Yet, in their uncontrolled aversion and detestation, they suspended all the rules of empiricism, logic, and rationality, and people died as a result. That's the sentence I said earlier. So basically, this is talking about how COVID became one of those things that whatever Trump said, the hate for Trump caused people to do the opposite. So, for example, for over a year, anyone who questioned the official National Institute of Health, NASA Institute of something, AID, whatever, Fauci narrative that the COVID-19 pandemic was the result of a new viral mutation that had jumped from humans to bats or pangolins, perhaps carved up in the Wuhan wet market, was attacked both personally and professionally. Why? Mostly because Trump himself had questioned just that improbable hypothesis. And Trump certainly could not be right, but even if he were, it was still the moral thing to do to say that he was not right. Connecting the dots of a biosafety level 4 virology lab at or near the first recorded case of COVID-19 was a mortal sin, simply because Trump had alleged just that. Instead, we were to discount the twisted relationships between the known gain-of-function viral research going on in that lab. The absence of any known animal infected with the SARS-CoV-2 virus, the connection of the lab to the Chinese military, the lab's known lax safety record, the systematic efforts of the Chinese Communist government and the World Health Organization to lie about the origin and nature of the virus, the year-long effort to stonewall Wuhan investigations, and the conflict of interest statements, behaviors, and policies of prominent American health officials who routed funding to gain-of-function research at Wuhan. But hey, Trump said it could be, so therefore they had to fight against what Trump said. Got it? Instead, we were to believe a Chinese-American media-fed narrative of a sick bat far from Wuhan infected with SARS-CoV-2, as such culprits are yet still to be discovered, that jump-started a chain of mutations that eventually turned the pathogen into a human strain that became a highly infectious pandemic in a way not seen since the Spanish flu over a century ago. Had the country removed such knee-jerk venomous hatred from the equation and instead encouraged scientists to examine the evidence of it and evidence in disinterested fashion in early 2020, when we might have known what we are only beginning to learn now a year earlier, with the hundreds of thousands of Americans perhaps still alive. In the months when COVID was sweeping the country, frontline doctors the world over were desperately seeking to recalibrate known drugs through modeling and theories that they possessed antiviral or anti-inflammatory properties useful for either attenuating the virus or ameliorating the lethal cytokine storm immune reaction. Doctors in poor countries such as India were attracted to hydroxychloroquine, an old cheap anti-malarial drug generally recognized as safe and known for its efficacy in treating inflammatory diseases such as lupus. When stories surfaced that both American and European doctors had independently claimed clear effectiveness of the drug treating some COVID-19 patients, Trump in reaction retweeted that it couldn't hurt to take the drug either as a medicine or a prophylactic. Rumors swirled that he had taken the drug himself. Furor ensued. Outrage followed. And soon, the time-tried hydroxychloroquine was considered an existential evil on par with Trump himself. If prior to Trump, the drug had been hailed by the United Nations as an essential medicine, especially in poor countries, for its dirt cheap cost, effectiveness, and general safety, suddenly it was now considered more toxic than a witch's brew. Fauci's legions demonized the drug, and soon it sometimes proved illegal for doctors to prescribe hydroxychloroquine. I tried not to say it right so it doesn't catch me in the algorithm, for off-label usages. Double-blind studies supposedly proved that the drug was useless, even though there was not comprehensive research conducted at different dosages and at different stages of the stupid 19 disease. Additionally, reports from India that some doctors there felt that the sudden widespread use of hydroxychloroquine and the antiparasitical drug ivermectin were responsible for decreases in COVID-19 lethality were likewise mocked. There was evidence. Now we read that a new study conducted at the St. Barnabas Medical Center, New Jersey, found that when the dosages of hydroxychloroquine were calibrated and adjusted by patient weight and fortified by antibiotic azithromycin, there was more than 100% increase in survival rates among COVID-19 patients without any correlation to heart arrhythmias. When was this new study come out? I didn't even see this one. Hang on. Let's look at this. I'll put it in the links. Right here. What's the date? June 2nd, 2021. Oh my gosh, it took us this long to figure this out. Wait a minute. Improved survival by nearly 200% in ventilated COVID patients. Do I need to say it? Do I need to say it? Because, remember, I don't know why I always have to do this, but I got to remind everybody, I'm not a Trump guy. I did vote for him this last election, but I'm not a Trump guy. Never was. I think he's a jackass, but I think he did the right things, and he was right more often than he was wrong. And this is another one of those cases where I just say, wait for it. Wait for it. Trump was right. More specifically, in this context, Maverick frontline doctors and infectious disease specialist Dr. Stephen Smith, not to be confused with the sportscaster Stephen A. Smith, of the nonprofit Smith Center for Infectious Diseases and Urban Health, recently argued that perhaps 100,000 lives might have been saved had the medical guild not demonized the drug and utterly dismissed it. Note that we are learning that once heralded far more expensive and difficult to administer drugs such as plasma therapy and remdesivir offered little efficacy in treating COVID-19. Why were the latter drugs considered legitimate experimental protocols in desperate times to treat the seemingly untreatable disease, but not hydroxychloroquine? The answer may be that Trump advocated the latter and not the former. Ergo, the safe, cheap, and well-known hydroxychloroquine was transmogrified into deadly and useless, and the jury is still out on plasma therapy and remdesivir. We are now in the surreal relationship with Russia. Vladimir Putin is capable of anything and everything, especially when appeased, as the Obama administration's 2009 to 2015 reset policy demonstrated. But we know now that he and Donald Trump did not conspire to collude or rig the 2016 election, despite the false assertion of the charlatan Christopher Steele and the media and the FBI hierarchy and John Brennan, CIA, the Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, and multiple top officials in the Obama Justice and State Departments. In the Trump nanosecond, we went from the prior Obama appeasement for Putin, or is that too kind an appraisal given Obama's own hot mic quid pro quo deal with Putin to put the interest of his own re-election campaign above U.S. national security, specifically dismantling missile defense in Eastern Europe, if Putin would only calm down and give Obama space during his re-election efforts to a Cold War-style Russian under every bed national mania. The result was that the left talked loudly and insanely about Russian collusion. Okay, this goes into the Russian part. This goes into the other part of the just nonsense that the left came up with regarding the Russian conspiracy. But let me just rephrase something that I said a little earlier. Trump was right. Capiche? Moving on. Ashley Babbitt's family has sued the DC cops to learn the identity of her killer. The family of Ashley Babbitt is suing Washington, D.C.'s Metropolitan Police Department to learn the identity of the officer who fatally shot Babbitt in the Capitol on January 6th. Court documents show the plaintiff, Aaron Babbitt, filed the lawsuit on April 21st, 2021 under Washington Code, and MPD was supposed to produce the requested information or prove that the department is legally exempt from doing so within 15 days. As of June 4th, the department has yet to do either. Aaron Babbitt's attorney, Terrell Roberts, said the problem with the lawsuit is that Capitol Police are not subject to the law regarding the Freedom of Information Act. The complication here is that Capitol Police are not subject to FOIA. However, they used the Metropolitan Police Department in the District of Columbia to conduct their investigation. Robert explains, in the words of the United States Attorney's Office, did a criminal investigation. In other words, the United States Attorney's Office did a criminal investigation and relied upon the Metropolitan Police Department to conduct their factual investigation. And so now that they've decided against bringing charges, I'm going to seek any kind of records that they may have collected in their investigation, including any records which identify the officer. So they're trying to find out. I think they want to do a wrongful death lawsuit. And that'll be interesting. Again, he's not being criminally charged, but can he be charged in a lawful death suit? It'll be interesting to see. Let's keep going here. Apparently, there's a Yale lecturer, Yale University. This is Yale University. Yale University. Apparently, this lecturer had fantasies of unloading a revolver into the head of any white person who got near her way. Fan-fucking-tastic. And get this, a psychiatrist lecturing at Yale University. A psychiatrist. Sounds like the psychiatrist might need a psychiatrist. A psychiatrist lecturing at Yale University School of Medicine Child Study Center. Child Study Center may have just made the Hall of Fame of Hate with her talk on the psychopathic problem of the white mind. Psychiatrist Dr. Aruna Kilanani probably should take the advice. Psychiatrist or physician, heal thyself. In a rootin' tootin' rip-roaring full-throated attack on all whites as a race, Ms. Kilanani, no honorifics for this radical left-wing monster, let loose a steam of conscious diatribe complete with murder fantasies, conspiracies, and the usual outraged victim shibboleths. Some of her more incendiary comments is compiled by former New York Times opinion writer and editor Barry Weiss are difficult to read. To listen to the complete lecture, follow the link at Barry Weiss's Substack page. I'll put her Substack page right on here. But here's some of the highlights or lowlights. Quote: I had fantasies of unloading a revolver into the head of any white person that got in my way, burying their body and wiping my bloody hands as I walked away relatively guiltless with a bounce in my step, like I did the world a fucking favor. That's at the 17 mark. At the 625 mark, she says, this is the cost of talking to white people at all. The cost of your own life as they suck you dry. There are no good apples out there. White people make my blood boil. At the 1713 mark, we are now in a psychological predicament because white people feel that we are bullying them when we bring up race. They feel that we should be thanking them for all that they've done for us. They are confused, and so are we. We keep forgetting that directly talking about race is a waste of our breath. We are asking a demented, violent predator who thinks that they are a saint or a superhero to accept responsibility. It ain't gonna happen. They have 5 holes in their brain. It's like banging your head against a brick wall. It's just sort of like not a good idea. And finally, at the 1754 point, she says, we need to remember that directly talking about race to white people is useless because they are at the wrong level of conversation. Addressing racism assumes that white people can see and process what we are talking about. They can't. That's why they sound demented. They don't even know they have a mask on. White people think it's their actual face. We need to get to know the mask. So again, she probably has a few psychological problems of her own, but look, and that's what this is what happens when you treat people as a group instead of individuals. And it's just an odd thing that let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, is Miss Gunther done that? Okay, so this is okay, so is Miss Kalani a threat to herself or to others? Katie Herzog was given the unfortunate task of interviewing the good doctor. Note that she, like all psychopaths, continued to use the word they to describe her enemies and those against her. So this is also in my first year, along with another person of color, I had the most Saturday call. These things are not incidental. There was a meeting where they actually tried to take away my vacation from me. Why? They came up with this idea that since I hadn't put the request on the calendar, then they're not going to give it to me. So that one I did push back on, that one I reported. It was a very chilling conversation I had with somebody. This is how these chilling conversation goes. It's never through email. They'll call you on the phone and say, we need to talk to you about something, because they never want any of this stuff documented. They'll be like, since you didn't put this on the calendar and you're not allowed to have a vacation. And I said, so-and-so and so-and-so didn't put it on the calendar. Why did they get a vacation? And they're like, do you really want to put yourself in the position where you're pointing out your colleagues' stuff? Like they needed to make me the person who's calling out my colleagues, not that it was unfair. Well, the delusional paranoid misinterpreted a gentle reminder of the rules as a threat. Could anything be more revealing? Yeah, she doesn't like rules. Anyway, and if you want to watch, here's the Barry Weiss piece. It'll be in the links down below. Did you see this Amazon driver beating up on some lady delivering Amazon driver tackles an elderly woman who disagreed with the white privilege lesson. The trouble started when an unidentified victim received a notification that her package had arrived. She went to the front door of her apartment complex, didn't see the package, and inquired about it to Ramirez because she was wearing an Amazon vest. Ramirez told the soon-to-be victim that she would have the package shortly. After waiting 15 minutes in the lobby, the victim asked Ramirez about the package again, and that's when the mayhem began. KTVU reported that Ramirez told the woman to check her white privilege. The victim is alleged to have said, well, you don't have to be a bitch about it. As the woman was walking away, Ramirez attacked her from behind, punched her repeatedly in the face, even breaking the victim's nose. I'm not going to play the video, but it's in the article here. The video shows Ramirez punching the woman 10 times with her right fist, once with her left. Ramirez was arrested by the Alameda County Sheriff's Office on suspicion of battery causing serious bodily injury and elder abuse, both felonies. Her bail was set at $100,000, which I'm sure Kamala Harris will pay off for her. But anyway, this is just the latest attack on an elderly white person. In the past year, we've seen numerous acts of aggression committed largely in New York City, one involving actor Rick Moranis. Well, not just white people, Asian people, and even some old black folks getting beat up by the young people who have amazing privilege. Amazon will give the driver a raise. No, I think that I'm pretty confident that Amazon probably immediately fired this asswipe. Anyway, let's see. There's another article in here about the insurrection, but I'm gonna just leave it in the links. But it's just an article. After ignoring BLM riots, federal prosecutors demand Capitol riot defendants pay for damages. So there's they estimate that the damage to the Capitol building was approximately $1.5 million. Okay. Now I'm not going to compare this to other riots that have significantly more damage, but you know how it goes. Well, real quick. Hi, Thomas Cleaver. How you doing? Hello, Mr. Yes, and Zach Osborne. What's happening? Anyway, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the Post reported, is seeking to recoup a major portion of the damages with restitution payments from Capitol defendants who were prosecuted primarily for crimes of trespassing and disorderly conduct. or in some cases, violent conduct. Plea deals outline the arrangement for restitution. Now, that's going to be tricky, isn't it? I mean, aren't they going to have to be specific of what damage each individual defendant caused? I'm sorry, this is going to be weird. Your client acknowledges the riot that occurred on January 6, 2021 caused, as of May 17, 2021, approximately $1,495,326.55 damage. Wait a minute. Did they say approximately? Read one of plea agreement reviewed by the Post. The defendant, 38-year-old Paul Hodgkins from Florida, agreed to pay $2,000 in damages to the Treasury Department. So they're going to try to take just a pound of flesh out of each one of these people, which they're, I'm beginning to think that some of these people are not just suspects, but they're becoming somewhat political prisoners, if you know what I mean. Anyway. Another interesting article, countdown to 9/11 plus 20. The 20th anniversary of 9/11 is approaching, and it's a little bit fascinating how things are coming along. Now, here's I'm just going to read you the beginning of this because it's kind of telling you where the federal government is going here. Oh, wait. Let me go back to my Twitter bookmarks here, because there was a tweet that really made my blood boil. Not even a tweet, something that Anderson Cooper said over the weekend, and Brian Stelter retweeted Friday. And we might even mention this on Friday. I don't remember, but let's take a look at this fresh hell of Anderson Cooper. I think we did, in fact. I'm pretty sure.
Within 130.
Hang on. I want you to listen to the first sentence here. Let's go full screen. Listen to this first sentence.
Good evening. 150 days since the worst single act of political violence since the Civil War.
Say what? Say what?
Good evening. 150 days since the worst single act of political violence since the Civil War and the...
I didn't quite get that.
Good evening. 150 days since the worst single act of political violence since the Civil War and the man...
$150 days since the single greatest act of political violence since the Civil War. Isn't it interesting that this CNN anchor named Anderson Cooper and Brian Stelter, who magnified this by tweeting about it, isn't it fascinating that these lack of perspective bitches echoed something out of a Biden speech. Notice that's directly out of a Biden speech, and I think Biden even made a mistake. I don't think he meant to say since the Civil War. But Anderson Cooper mimics what Joe Biden said in some speech, the greatest single act of political violence since the Civil War. When we've had presidential assassinations, since we've had bombings at the Capitol in 1971, 1954, 1982, 85, bombings of the Senate building in 85, bombing of the Capitol building in assassination attempts, multiple people shot in Congress in 1954. We've had the Murrah building in Oklahoma City bombed, 120 some people died. We've had 9/11 act of political violence where 3,000 people died, and they're trying to make this unarmed riot into as Wait a minute. Wasn't Pearl Harbor an act of political violence? Since the Civil War? Were the Watts riots political violence in the 60s? Were the last year of BLM and Antifa protests that turned into violence political violence? Was CHOP, the George Floyd Autonomous Zone, are those murders in those areas acts of political violence? The greatest single act of political violence in the Civil War? Are you fucking kidding me? But CNN seems to think that their job is to, what's the word? When you magnify someone's words. Magnifying the words of Joe Biden. Are you kidding me? JFK shooting at the shooting at the baseball field, attempted murder of congressman, the bombing of the Senate building in '85. There were in 1954, Puerto Rican nationals were in the gallery of Congress and were shooting into the chamber. And 5 people were shot inside the Congress building. You're comparing this insurrection where they took selfies and pictures of each other. And yes, they did some damage. And there were some assaults on police officers. No one armed. Versus 5 people getting shot in Congress in 1954. Political violence since the Civil War? Can you think of some of the violence in the Congress in the 20s, in the late 1800s? Can you think of this is insanity that they're trying to conflate this. How many presidents have been assassinated since the Civil War? How many attempted assassinations have there been since the Civil War? In fact, George W. Bush, there was 2 attempted assassinations on him. They attempted to assassinate Gerald Ford twice. They killed John F. Kennedy. They killed, anyway, any of them. You realize Lincoln was assassinated after the Civil War. So the idea that the single, oh my gosh, it's unbelievable that they even said it. Anyway, thank you, Gunfox61 for another $4.99. Thank you for sponsoring the show. Who says, Marty, I told you so. They are political prisoners. Yep, I agree. I think they are. Anyway, so the countdown, let's get back to this article. Countdown to 9/11 plus. So on that note, with Anderson Cooper's stupidity, I would like to see, this is George Will. Listen, this is the words from George Will, who said, I would like to see January 6th burned into the American mind as firmly as 9/11 because it was that scale of shock to the system. Give me a break. That was Washington Post columnist George Will at a May 23rd appearance on ABC This Week. Will seems to have taken the complete leave of his senses, wrote Conrad Black, who compared the two events. On January 6, 2021, a few hundred people entered the U.S. Capitol and caused relatively minor damage. Of the 5 casualties, only one, a Trump supporter, died of unnatural causes, shot in the neck by a still unidentified Capitol police officer. And the FBI verified the intrusion was not coordinated with Trump, who called for a peaceful demonstration. On September 11, 2001, by contrast, 3,000 people perished in a meticulously planned barbarously executed assault with hijacked airliners. The massacre of the innocents, as Osama bin Laden described it, was designed to intimidate the entire country and to force the United States into a more accommodating policy towards terrorists and their preferred causes, especially the destruction of the state of Israel. George Will can't see the difference but he provided a service by reminding the public of 9/11, soon to mark 20 years. That calls for a review of how 19 Islamic jihadists pulled off the deadliest attack in the United States since Pearl Harbor. Yeah, Pearl Harbor was a political attack too, right? Anybody? It is perhaps obvious to the state to state that terrorists cannot plan and carry out attacks in the United States if they are unable to enter the country, noted 9/11 terrorist travel staff report of the National Commission on Terrorist Attacks upon the United States, released in 2004. By this time, 20 years ago, the report explains that the Al-Qaeda team demonstrated the relative ease of obtaining U.S. visas and gaining admissions into the United States. The hijackers began to acquire U.S. visas in April 1999, 2 years and 5 months before the attack. Consular officers had no information about the fraudulent travel stamps used by Al-Qaeda and were not trained in terrorist travel tactics. 3 hijackers were known as Al-Qaeda terrorists in early 2000, but their biographical information was not communicated to border authorities for watch listing at U.S. consulates of the border. The hijackers successfully entered the United States 33 of 34 times, with the first arriving on January 15, 2000 at Los Angeles International Airport. All others entered through airports on the East Coast, including 11 entries through New York area airports and 12 through Florida airports. The terrorists included 14 muscle hijackers trained to gain entry to the cockpit and subdue passengers. Tourist visas guaranteed them 6 months of legal stay, more than enough for September 11, 2001. The 6-month tourist stay also assured the hijackers of sufficient time to obtain identification to board planes on 9/11. 14 of 15 operatives and all of the pilots easily acquired one or more or multiple forms of U.S. state-issued identification. Their visas were issued by the State Department, which in some cases speeded up the process and approved incomplete applications. The reason for these visa policies in Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Germany have never been adequately explained, but as Terrorist Travel notes, with its reputation as a friend of foreigners, state was an easy target. Basically, this is a whole article. The rest of the articles on how easy it was for them to get in, and maybe we should start talking about what was happening there. And the idea, though, that Joe Biden chose September 11th to pull the troops out of Afghanistan is a head scratcher at best. Anyway, the rest of the article is, though, will be available in the links. Good morning, MC. Whoops.
Stop. Hammer time.
And hello, Jesse Leon. And why are you so angry? That's the name, not asking the question. And People's Front of Canada. Welcome to the show. Nice to see you. All right. Let me get through these last ones real quick because I got a ton open and not going to have time to get to them all. So anyway. Great article on was mask wearing pointless after all. The question that Dr. Fauci certainly needs to answer. Here's the easy thing. Here's the headline. Did we ever need masks? It's a touchy, complex question. People may not want to learn that millions of us covered our faces for 15 months for no good reason after all, but asking the question is exactly what we must do. Last week, a trove of Dr. Anthony Fauci's emails released to the public in a February 5th, 2020 email to Team Obama health official. The virus guru wrote that masks were for infected people and that the typical mask you buy at the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through the material. We've been talking about this for months. But I'm going to leave the article in the tabs because, yeah, the virus is smaller than any of the masks you buy. So it doesn't protect you from getting the virus. And only symptomatic people could pass the virus. And so it could slow down the virus from coming out of an infected person. But does it help people who aren't infected and from getting the virus? Nope. And that's what it says in that email. Anyway, it is a question that Fauci needs to answer. Yeah, there's another one, Faucism. By the way, you can get your Resist Faucism gear at pdognight.live, the merch tab. Get your Resist Faucism cup while they last. All right, another article. They had suspicion. The former FDA commissioner says Fauci briefed the world leaders on a potential lab leak over a year ago. The more we get from these emails, it's amazing. Thank you, Gunfox61 with a deuce. It says Marty, Pearl Harbor was an attack by the Empire of Japan. Now you can make the claim that it was a political attack, but it was not to be a sneak attack, but was due to their ambassador. Typer was so slow and took too long to type out the letter of war. Yeah, true. I'm just saying, okay, so maybe it's a worldwide political attack. War is a political attack in a way, but yeah, I got you. Good point, Gunfox51. I appreciate you. Former FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb said on Sunday that he was told Dr. Anthony Fauci had briefed world leaders on the possibility that a novel coronavirus leaked from the lab. Gottlieb told Face the Nation host John Dickerson that a senior official in the former President Trump's administration had informed him there was suspicion that the strain, quote, looked unusual, end quote, which prompted Fauci to address the possibility that it leaked from a research laboratory in Wuhan. And now it's in the emails too that people were figured that out. Yes, why is Anthony Fauci still employed? And then of course another article about looks like Trump was right about Fauci. I'm gonna just skip that one because I've already said it, that those words that nobody wants to hear. Trump was right. It'll be in the articles. Bishop, war is a political expression. Yes, it is. Absolutely. And then also, as the virus spread, remember when Fauci compared COVID-19 to the seasonal flu? Remember this? This is one of his greatest hits too. Dr. Fauci displayed a flippant attitude about travel and failed to understand the severity of stupid 19 during the early stages, even as clear warning signs emerged, according to emails reviewed by the Washington Free Beacon. Now, here's the thing. See, people get all mad at the president at the time, which would have been Donald Trump, how they say he didn't seem to take it seriously, although he kind of did. I mean, he was the only one talking about it when nobody else was. And when Nancy Pelosi was in Chinatown telling people, to come on down to the Chinese New Year celebration. And, in New York, Bill de Blasio was doing the same thing. While Trump was like, this disease, we don't know a whole lot about it, but, hopefully that won't be as bad as we think it's going to be. Well, think about who his main advisors were when he was talking about stupid 19. Well, on February 25th, 2020, CBS News asked Fauci for advice in its coverage of stupid 19. Fauci told the network to emphasize, quote, the real and present danger, end quote, of the seasonal flu, even as the Centers for Disease Control prepared to classify stupid 19 spread as a pandemic that very day. The emails revealed how Fauci steered the media's early coverage of stupid 19 just 2 weeks before President Donald Trump declared the virus a national emergency. He told CBS News, quote, yield to unreasonable fear about stupid 19, nor allow the fear of the unknown pandemic to distort the evaluation of everyday risk. That's in an email to CBS Sunday morning. And so there's the email. Fauci did not respond to a request for comment. Psych! Of course he didn't. Anyway, and he also, comments echoed the erroneous prognostication of the Washington Post, NPR, and other outlets that published the articles claiming the flu presented a greater risk to public health than stupid 19. Remember when Anderson Cooper said that on This is CNN. Yeah. Remember how all the media was treating this? Oh, it's just, this is worse than the flu's worse, blah, blah, blah. That's because of some emails sent by Dr. Anthony Fauci. Anyone know why he has a job still? Let's see. I think I have another one. Fauci spin. Now Fauci's saying that criticism of Fauci email revelations very much an attack on science. She blinded me with science. For the past 15 months, the American people have been treated to the constant invocation of science by elected officials and supposed medical experts at any time questions have been raised about the justification for lockdowns, mask mandates, etc. Trust the science, they automatically say in response, even though the opinions among scientists have varied since the start of the Wuhan coronavirus outbreak in the U.S., though one wouldn't know that if they'd only read mainstream news publications like the Washington Compost and the New York Slimes. Even now, the immediate sudden about-face on the Wuhan lab leak theory, as well as the release of thousands of pages of Fauci emails from the early days of the pandemic, all which further the call to question the leadership of Fauci and others, the arguments is still being made by the usual suspects that any question of what the experts say is attacking science. In other words, shut the hell up. And now, in his little interview with Rachel Maddow, basically anyone talking about the emails and his questioning Fauci's judgment is attacking science. Dr. Anthony Fauci ridiculously responds to being criticized. It's really very much an attack on science, is much an anti-science. It's all nonsense, completely inappropriate, distorted, misleading, and misrepresented attacks. Yeah, right. You'll have to watch this one yourself. I'm running out of time here. Anyway, let me just tell you what's in the other articles that will be in the links down below. We'll just do a quick rundown and then we're going to get out of here. Scientific model shows that state fairs can occur at full capacity with no COVID risk, because I know our state, one of the second largest state fair in the country behind Texas, they're looking at canceling our state fair this year. And the truth of the matter is, the science says you can have your state fair at full capacity with no COVID risk. Shocker. Also, the Governor Newsom is reneging on a promise to surrender his emergency COVID-19 powers. He likes having that I don't want to say it. I don't want to go get a Godwin award. But anyway, he's saying that he's not going to give up his power. So good article in PJ Media about that. I'm going to skip this one. And now Biden tells college graduates that systemic racism, climate change are like the Vietnam War. Let me just give you the quote. And now you face another inflection point as we put this pandemic behind us, rebuild our economy, root out systemic racism, and tackle climate change. We're addressing the great crisis of our time with a greater sense of purpose than ever before. And then Biden, what's the quote here? But it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to you to translate that unprecedented change into a greater measurement of happiness. Oh, that's not it. Anyway, he compared it to the Vietnam War. Yeah, shut up, Joe. You can read that one on your own. Also in the tabs or the links today, you don't reverse discrimination with more discrimination. Senator Tim Scott says America needs more opportunity and not retaliation, which is this is a good one. But there's a good video in here. Make sure you watch it. There was in Fort Worth, Texas. The city has grown by 200,000 people in the last decade, bringing to its population to a little less than 1 million. That makes it the 12th largest city with no signs of slowing down. Fort Worth is one of the only big cities with a Republican mayor, so it would be a big deal when the current GOP mayor, Betsy Price, decided to step down. The race to replace her was supposedly nonpartisan, but both sides poured money and resources into the contest, hoping to make a statement. Maddie Parker, a former aide to Price, was on the ballot, as was Deborah Peoples, the former Democratic chair of Tarrant County. Peoples enjoyed the backing of the National Democrats and big PACs, including the Collective PAC, which poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into the race. Major Democrats like Beto O'Rourke and former San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro endorsed her. As for Parker, she had strong support from the Tarrant County Republican Party and was endorsed by Governor Abbott. In the end, the Republican won the day, but it was a close call. So the rise in population of Fort Worth, still they have basically a Republican mayor, even though it's nonpartisan. Let's see, crazy Republican. So in this big giant $6 trillion budget Joe Biden's proposing, not a single dime increase for Homeland Security. What's one of our biggest problems right now in the Biden administration? Because you realize Biden and Kamala, isn't immigration, the border, isn't that Homeland Security? I'm just saying. And neither of them have been to the border yet either. Border czar Kamala Harris has not been to the border. Let's see. Oh yeah, Facebook is saying that their ban of Trump till 2023 is appropriate and proportionate and fair and transparent. Now, isn't it fascinating that they're banning Trump until 2023? What happens What happens in 2022? Oh, there's a midterm election in 2022. So I guess they're going to try to keep him quiet until 2022. I bet you anything around middle of 2022, they're going to decide to ban him for another 2 years. Just saying. Wouldn't it be interesting if Trump ran for the House of Representatives and got elected to be Speaker of the House over Nancy Pelosi? Yeah, I don't think that'll happen. Anyway. Let's see. Other Twitter call. Oh, I'm gonna come back to this one tomorrow. Twitter called open internet an essential human right after being blocked in Nigeria and forgets about its own censorship. Oh my gosh, I had a field day with this. Well, not a field day. I had one sentence that I made about this. One sentence. Let me see if I can find it. Hang on. And then I'm just going to leave the other tabs out because I'm out of time here. But what was it that I said about that? Let's see here. Tweets and replies. So here it is. Here's the tweet that Twitter public policy put out. This is amazing. This is amazing. We are deeply concerned by the blocking of Twitter in Nigeria. Access to the free and open internet is an essential human right in modern society. We will work to restore access for all those in Nigeria who rely on Twitter to communicate and connect with the world. Keep it on. Which made me think to myself, this is so confusing. Is Twitter free and open in countries that regulate Twitter or jail people for what they post? China, Germany, Scotland, etc., etc., etc. And access to Twitter is a human right now? That seems just a tiny bit inconsistent. Anybody else with me on that? Fascinating. Oh, my daughter is subscribed to my channel. Thank you, dear. I'm assuming that's my daughter. That's the only Alyssa I know. Are you watching the show, Alyssa? Just curious. Anyway, thank you for subscribing. Finally. Oh, but you have she has 4 or 5 different accounts. So maybe she's just subscribing with that account. And I'm assuming it's my daughter. I can't assume anything. But anyway. All right. Let's see. Open internet. There's also new evidence that most of the Gaza casualties were terrorists and not civilians. Many of the dead operatives presented on social media by Arab media outlets, they said they were civilians. Nope. Gavin Newsom's mad about the federal judge striking down California's unconstitutional gun ban. They had a ban on assault weapons, so-called assault weapons, which nobody can name. There's a thread on Twitter that I wanted to highlight. Maybe I'll get that one tomorrow too. Also, thanks for the show. Well, thank you, Kesler, for dropping in. I didn't see you here earlier, but you may have been here a while. Also, good morning, Check Your Logic. How you doing? State Department's no longer using the term Abraham Accords because, that's something Trump said, so they can't say it because it's about Trump. They're discouraging employees from referring to the historic peace agreement signed by Israel and its Arab neighbors by its official name, the Abraham Accords, according to one source with direct knowledge of the Biden administration's internal decision-making process and emails reviewed by the Washington Free Beacon. The name has also been erased from a wide array of official State Department communications as the new administration presses officials to refer to the Trump-era deals as normalization agreements. Good Lord. Anyway, thank you, Gunfox61, with another. Dude. Don't start getting me. You're going to get me in trouble, man. Dude, please. All right. Thank you, Gunfox, for the $14.88. He says, Deus Vult, we will retake our nation. Deus Vult, start the crusade. Thank you, sir, for the donation. I do appreciate you. You're just trying to get. I read it. I said it. Thank you, sir. Stop that. All right. Oh, and then the Biden administration is doing enough to help that journalist that was kidnapped in Belarus. 80. This is not good news. 80% of workers don't want to return to the office full time. Some companies want their workers back in the office, but that may be easier said than done. According to a survey by tech job market platform Hack a Job, 86% of workers want to keep doing their jobs from home. Now that's not interesting because that could be a bonus to some companies, as far as their costs and stuff. But anyway, only 14% of the 1,700 tech professional survey want to go back to the company office. In fact, my son is in tech, and he's gonna work remotely from now on. They have teams in where he works that are going to all work remotely. So he's on one of those teams. Most of his team is in Boston anyway, and he works here in the Twin Cities. So he's free to work remotely, and he and his significant other may be moving to Denver and still work for the company that he works for here from Denver. So anyway, it doesn't surprise me that tech workers who can work from home remotely may want to continue doing that as long as they're productive. Good for them. I don't know. Anyway, and then finally, let's see. Florida and Alaska have joined a lawsuit about the Keystone Pipeline against the Biden administration. 2 more state attorney generals are joining the ongoing lawsuit, initially filed with 21 other states, against the Biden White House for its cancellation for the Keystone Pipeline. So now that's 2 more states on that. Let's see. Baby named Karen plunges in 2020, hits the lowest ranking since 1927. Nobody's naming their kids Karen anymore because of Karens. And let's see. Oh, Bill Maher had a great monologue. I'm not a fan of Bill Maher, but sometimes he's better. He's more than the clock striking, a broken clock being right twice a day. He does have a certain libertarian bent to him, and he had a great monologue on why free college is a joke. And so you can watch that one on your own. And then finally up in the tabs, there's a whole list of how wealthy some of America's most prominent socialists are. I think there was a thing, remember Boomer Girl? What's her name? Nicole Sanchez went on a viral TikTok video in which she mocked baby boomers and expressed support for Bernie Sanders. Now she's a famous Twitch streamer and progressive influencer. She just bought a $2 million apartment and a $120,000 BMW. So good for her, socialist sorry ass. Anyway, there's just some more others in here. Colors, Bernie Sanders, all these people who have made them. Mark Ruffalo too. Mark Ruffalo is a multimillionaire. And so anyway, and the city council members in Seattle, they're all making a lot of money. Hello, Francis Barrett. And then finally, 2 other articles that I want to remind you that will be in the link today. One, calling Remembering D-Day, June 6, 1944, in the American Spectator. Great article talking about, also highlighting President Roosevelt's speech. And then the final one from the American Thinker, Great Generations. Again, 2 great articles on D-Day that will be at the bottom of the tabs. But on that note, it's definitely time for me to call it a day because I got other things I do during the day that require my attendance. So I will be back tomorrow as I am on Mondays through Friday, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central for the Morning Night Live. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so at this moment before you go, and share the stream. Even after the show, it's good to share the stream and let people know that I was here. And if you would like to be a sponsor of the show, you can do that several ways. Those are all down in the description below. Thank you, Gunfox61, who is...
You are the new Streamlabs Superstar sponsor of the day.
Thank you, sir, for doing that. Oh, yes, it is Alyssa, my daughter, with her new avatar. Nice. Okay, so anyway, it is time to go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I will be back tomorrow. I got to go. But it is time. I updated the outro. I still have to update the standby and the intro and all that stuff. But I did update the outro, so there you go. So check out how the flower garden is progressing, because that's what my outro is during this time of year, and that's it. So time to go. Thank you, everybody. My name is Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here. Bye-bye. Hey, this is Dawg Knight, and thank you for watching today on the Dawg Knight Channel. If you have an observation or remark you'd like to make about this video or my channel, I absolutely welcome you to write it in the comment section down below. I really look forward to hearing from you. And before you go, if you like what you saw but you're not already subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and definitely click that bell that pops up afterwards so you'll be notified when I post new videos or when we go live. I broadcast my live show, The Morning Night Live, Monday through Friday at 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central. A special thank you to all the supporters of this channel who share our videos on social media and who make donations through Streamlabs, YouTube, Venmo, and Cash App, which are all linked in the description down below. Thanks again, and until next time, I'm Dawg Knight, and I'm out of here.